my name is Denim Richards, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
So, man, I want to tell you, we were supposed to do an interview, I want to say in 2019, and my dad passed a week before the interview. And
Oh, man, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And it got canceled. And the fact that you stuck with me and the people behind you stuck with me, I just really appreciate it. So the fact that we're talking in 2022 means a great deal to me. So thank you for that, Denim.
Oh, man, don't even worry about it. Sorry to hear about your loss.
Yeah, thank you. So, I have to say, it's been well publicized about you learning about your German during opera. How's the Kikongo? Is it Kikongo? Is that, am I saying that correctly?
Kikongo. Yeah, Kikongo.
How's that going?
It's going better than the German.
Yeah.
But it's mainly just because of proximity to the opportunity. Even when I was trying to learn German, I never even ended up in Germany. And so that was a little bit more challenging, even though I was doing, opera and learning it that way. But the Kikongo, I'm around, but, I'm more engrossed in it. So it's a little bit easier. It's still challenging. Anytime you're doing a language as you get older, it's challenging, but it's coming along.
Yeah. And I speak Polish, and I love I just think we're at a point, and I think most schools do this, where you have to learn, a second language. I just think it's just so, like, I have a friend that just is randomly taking up Dutch. Like I just think that that's just such a powerful thing. Like, we're in a time where we're such an inclusive group of people. Like, I think we have to, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for us, especially, if you've grown up in the West. I think that you kind of want to be a little bit careful, because there is kind of like the Western ideology of, like, if we all speak English already, like, what's the point of learning any other language? But the world is kind of becoming more global. It's becoming more inclusive. More businesses are happening all over the world. So I do think that there's a tremendous amount of benefits just to be able to learn other languages, but it's also really good for your brain, just to kind of test yourself and get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So I have to say, I really find what you do and what you say motivational. I feel like you're one of those rare people that actually does what he says he does. Like, there's people that say that are motivational but don't live up to it. You do. And I want to tell you one of the quotes that I've been saving for a while now, because I wanted to show it to you, that I just love it. It's from Twitter. And it's a screenshot. It says, "This generation has become a giant high school campus. It's all about being popular, and no one cares about your policies or principles. They just care that you're popular." If that doesn't describe most people on this planet right now, I got to say, I don't know what does.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like, it's 2020 and it sounds like I just wrote it like an hour ago.
Yes. Yes. That's 2 years old, that tweet.
But it's sad. It's, at times it's very frustrating, and it's not lost on me about what I've been very blessed and fortunate to do, but I'm always trying to be very careful about, just because you happen to, like, see us on television doesn't mean we have all the answers, right? Like, it's a job, it is an opportunity, and that specific job happens to give you the opportunity to feel like suspended from disbelief, right? But I don't believe that we should be trying to push all these different narratives and things of that nature. And because of the opportunities with media, we have the opportunity to be very popular and powerful and impactful. And so I think we just have to be very careful about what that is. And so it is very frustrating at times when there's people that are kind of elevated to certain positions and they talk about certain things, but they don't do any of the things that they actually are talking about themselves.
Yep.
And it is. So, and like I said, back at that time, I looked at it the exact same way. Like, it literally is like what it's like to be in high school.
Yeah, that tweet has aged very well. Mastering the mind. Talk about being an author, Denim. I know you've said this in other interviews, but like I said, I think this goes back to your, actually doing what you say you're going to do, being a motivational person, being a person that stands behind what he does, that he's somebody that uses where he is now in life for good, for wellness, for positive. Like, it's just so refreshing to see, Denim.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate that, and a lot of this stuff, like, even for mastering your mind and even for the way that I kind of started crafting my social media, was actually a way of, like, self-accountability for myself to never be allowed to kind of get out of that and forget about the struggles and the hardships, or I think what some people are calling, I think somebody came out with an article and called it the lean years, which I thought was brilliant. I was like, oh, I'm taking that for sure. That's exactly what it was. And so just to, like, not forget and not, be disconnected from those things. And so mastering your mind was also something where it was like, these are internal dialogues that I was having for myself. And the hope was, that maybe there'll be my one or two people that, might resonate with that as well.
Yeah, but you do it on a daily basis. Like your Twitter has a positive message moving forward. Your Instagram is a really positive place. I don't mean, like I'm not going to gush and overwhelm you with
I
comments,
appreciate it.
but it's facts. Like there's just being a father now of two. My second child's on the way in May. It's just I want the world to be like the way you're kind of acting and approaching. And I got a long way to go myself. It makes me reflect even more.
Oh, we all do, right? We all do, right? Like it's a hard thing, and the hardest part about this society is we get so much access to information, and we're pulled in so many different directions. And the moment that we think it's okay to go this direction, we're going that way, and then we find out that it's not the right way, and now we spend all this time trying to go the other way. And so to me, the only thing that you really can do is just be authentic to you. Yeah. And there's parts where you're not going to be loved and lauded by everyone. And one of the things I do talk about very often is like being very careful about who you decide to put on a pedestal, because eventually the person that you love today is probably going to disappoint you tomorrow. Right. And it's not fair for the person that is trying to live authentically if you now decide that you disagree with them, that now they're the worst person in the world. Right. So that's something that I'm very, very careful about. I try to say things that I feel are true to myself, that are not, politically motivated, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And some people will agree with it and some people will not. And where that kind of falls on the line, it's like, who knows? Because that narrative is changing every day.
No, that's another great point. Podcasting has taught me a lot about people, both good and bad, mostly good. Do you find that acting has done the same for you?
Oh, absolutely. The great thing about acting, I say this all the time, is that one thing I love about it is it gives you access to so many different people that you would never believe you would have any access to throughout your entire life. Right. And so that's one of the things I love. And yes, and sometimes along your journey, you'll come across people that, maybe you've seen growing up, or you've heard all these great kind of things about, and then you kind of see them and you're like, man, that's unfortunate. It's sometimes it can be disappointing, but also at the same time, sometimes people are just having a bad day and you happen to be part of that bad day experience. Right. So I try to be very careful about what that is. But yes, there absolutely has been times where you're like, man, I was really hoping that you kind of match this and you don't. Yeah. And that's, but again, like I said, everyone has a bad day. I remember I was a waiter for many years, especially this is before my lean years. This is like my rebirth. It was like, and there's times where I just didn't have it. Right. You have a flat tire, your car's timing belt's going out, and this, that, and the third, and people want more breadsticks, and you're rolling your eyes and you're frustrated. And then they leave you a thing of like, oh, our waiter was so this and so that. They don't care about the fact that like your timing belt's gone out and your job's not, they don't care about those things. So sometimes I try to leave enough room for that grace and leave enough room for that to be wrong. But, as sometimes you meet people and you see people and you're like, dang, I wanted so badly for you to match the narrative that is put out for you.
Yeah. That is so well said. I have to tell you, so yesterday I interviewed a woman who did the music composition for the movie Devotion, which is about the first African-American pilot in the Navy. Just a wonderful story. And she has a legitimate chance to be the first African-American nominated for an Academy Award for music composition. I say this to you because when I asked her influence, she told me it was The Lion King. So I'm doing research on your life last night. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys are like the fifth people that have told me The Lion King has been an influential piece. I know why it was for her. Why is The Lion King so important to you, Denim?
Man, it's so funny. So if I was back in the West, we would be doing this interview in my office. And in my office, like right behind me, like this picture there, there's an oil painting that I have of The Lion King. So if we were there, this is what it would look like. So
okay.
Perfectly. But yeah, The Lion King, it's so it's fascinating. It's multi-layered. When I was a child, it's just important because it was one of the first movies that the singing and the dancing and just the vibe of it. It was visceral for me. And then as I got older, especially like once I got into my mid-20s, there's a lot of strong subliminals about, not forgetting who you are and where you came from and how we are our ancestors, and not trying to get, too deep.
No.
But, for us as African Americans, especially in the West, we didn't go when we were in school. They didn't teach us about our history. They taught us that our history started in the transatlantic slave trade. And so then, but before then, it was like, so what were we? Right. And so there's like this narrative for us that just is like, we've always been downtrodden and we've always had nothing. And so we kind of spend the rest of our life almost like hating and abhorring where we came from, because we know whose life ever wants to feel like they're attached to something so egregious. Right. And if that's what your story is. And so the Lion King has those types of things where, Simba thinks that he did something terrible and being the person that, helped kill his father. So he spends running away from his life and kind of taking on a new identity that is completely foreign to him, but pretends that he loves it. And then somebody from the past comes and reminds him. And this is something that's very powerful because it's done a lot of research for this, but there's been a lot of, I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies.
Yeah.
I have one of my partners is flying into Africa, and so they're en route right now. So
sure. Yeah, I can edit this out. Yeah, no problem.
No, you're fine. They're not here now. They're
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But so one of the things was that the brain, when it can connect to something visceral, it has a chance to be able to reset itself. And that was something that was really impactful in The Lion King. So as I started getting older and going on my own personal journey and learning my own history, which that's how like learning Kikongo and all these other things came about.
Right.
It just really changed my life. And so now it's just kind of a thing that is, stuck with me. So, yeah.
Yeah, well said. And before we hop into Yellowstone, I did want to say I've been doing research on the zoo. This should not be a short. This should be a feature film. Like why is this? And I know it's easy for me to say, right? Like I could come up with the millions of dollars that it takes, right? But the premise is freaking amazing. Like the idea of Benjamin, like I want to see this thing unfold on a big grand scale.
Yeah, it's something that's really important to me. And I appreciate that. And we, I had a tremendous team. We did, I started this journey in 2011, 12.
Wow.
That was went out. Yeah. And that was when we were just getting into the lean years. And, it was something that was really, really passionate for me to just kind of learn about how we were so integral in so many different parts of history. So yeah, it was about, what did we do this 8 years of research before I even really kind of penned anything, 4 years before I penned a script. And then it was kind of just sitting around. But I've lived with this story for, well over a decade now. So we did the short as kind of more of a proof of concept, and it just turned out to be really impactful. And but it's a lot. It's very intense, and it forces you to ask a lot of questions. And for some people it makes them uncomfortable, but I'm kind of big about for myself, the same way that I kind of approach the arts is that I try to do things that are edifying and educational, but that are also entertaining. And I think that if you just only want to be entertained, there's so many other different outlets for you to do that. But if it's something that I'm involved in, the hope is that you'll be edified and educated. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the zoo done as a limited series and or a feature. We have scripts for both. So we'll see what that journey looks like.
So I always hear the term, so-and-so was born to play this character. So-and-so was, I got to say, between your training and my next question, your equestrian riding, and when you started riding horses, you were born to play Colby. Like you were, that was like, I'm not a big like meant to be guy, but this is meant to be.
I've been very blessed. Taylor, it's insane because you just, again, like I was saying, you just never imagine being able to be a part of anything. I remember I had watched like Hell or High Water right before I had even maybe like 2 months before I had even heard of even Yellowstone, or 3 months. And then I had booked my first feature film where I was starring in with Tommy Flanagan called Chickasaw Rancher. That's out on Netflix now, Montford Chickasaw Rancher. And it's a period piece, 1860s, where we did horse riding and cattle and all these other things. And then on the back of that, a couple of weeks later, that's when the opportunity to audition for Yellowstone came. So, and again, it kind of just encompassed a lot of the things that it was very unique. And I was happy that, Taylor and John Linson, that they saw some potential there and saw that there could be, something a little bit more. And, now here we are 5 seasons in and, just really enjoying this ride.
Yeah. And by the way, does Tommy expect to thank you after all this time, like to watch you grow on the screen?
Yeah, I think I think at bare minimum, he deserves a text message, right? I think, he really, he didn't have to put me, without him, honestly, I would have found out about Yellowstone when everybody else found out about it. And, I just got very blessed, and I always say this when, you hear this growing up, especially in the arts, like there's no small parts, there's only small actors. Right.
Yeah.
And so this became this thing for me of like always wanting to be prepared and treat every opportunity as the opportunity. And so I wanted to go into Chickasaw Rancher. I was like, this is the first time I get to star in something. Like I really wanted to knock it out of the park. And I got very blessed to be opposite of Tommy in one of the most intense scenes of the movie. And then because of that, then we're in a car together and he's bringing this up. And so I was happy that he saw that, that there was another opportunity. And, now here we are in Yellowstone, #1 show, five seasons later. It's a tremendous blessing.
And Chickasaw Rancher is a great movie, available on Netflix, like you said. Great movie. What kind of so for somebody for those 3.5 people that haven't seen Yellowstone, what kind of person is Colby? How would you describe it, Denim? How would you describe Colby?
Colby's, I always call him a loyalist, and he's kind of a pack animal with the ability to lead if needed. But I try to play Colby as a little bit more visceral. The great thing about Taylor is that he didn't really write Colby to type, if that makes sense to me. He didn't lean into kind of the tropes and the things that we would usually think about as, an African-American in this world and what that would look like. He just wrote a character and wanted somebody to come in and breathe life into it. And I'm very blessed that he chose me to give me the opportunity to live in Colby's life.
Right.
So I try to play him a little bit more visceral, but he's definitely a loyalist. He's pack. He loves the people that he's with. And this season, we've had some really exciting moments where Colby's made 1 or 2 errors, but it is what it is. Where what's the saying? Like, I'm just following orders. But yeah, that's what I would say. Colby's a loyalist, but I think that it's really exciting to kind of play that visceral part of it, and kind of get a little bit more heady, and not as physical and everything.
Yeah, so I put my life on pause to rewatch, knowing that we were going to speak, and I rewatched it, and it's just amazing. How would you describe, two-parter here? How would you describe how Colby has evolved since the first season? Because those first 2 seasons, I feel like people think they're so long ago, but they're so magical and so really. I mean, sometimes people forget because it. So how would you think that? How would you think that Colby, or describe how Colby has evolved? But more importantly, Denim, how have you evolved over this time?
Oh, great question. Colby's definitely evolved just in the aspect of, I think that he's more present in the opportunities that are at hand. He's more, I guess you would say, more thought of in certain moments and more instrumental in certain operations that are going on. And I think that's great to have, some more opportunities to, prove himself and to show. And the great thing about Colby that I always tell people is, the first 2 seasons, up until the end of season 3, Colby wasn't branded. And, that means if for the, like I said, the 3.5 people that haven't watched it, being branded, you've done some type of criminal activity and thus you can't leave the ranch and you get branded. But, Colby wasn't branded before, which means like he didn't have a criminal history. He wasn't in and out of jail. He hadn't done anything. So there was no point to kind of play him as this very rough edge type of individual, because that's not what his vibe was. Unlike some of the other ones who we kind of meet and they're already branded, and or we're meeting them for the first time and they brand them instantaneously. So I kind of wanted to play against that. And then, of course, as time goes on, at the end of season 3, Colby gets branded, but it wasn't necessarily because he was a bad person. It was kind of like you happen to be in proximity to things that were happening that were bad, and those happen. And then, as an individual, I think, honestly, I kind of appreciate the opportunity so much more. We all came into Yellowstone and we all wanted to, like, especially as an artist, the goal is just to get on a show. Then your hope is that you stay on the show. And then your goal is like, hopefully it gets picked up for 2 seasons. And then it just becomes like, don't die. Right. Like PlayStation. But, as an individual, my life has changed in so many different ways, not only with the opportunity, but just kind of like we started the conversation with just what the platform is. And, people pay more close attention to the things that you're saying, and good, bad, or indifferent. People are listening, and they do expect you to kind of hold yourself accountable in a certain way. And some artists don't like that because they're like, well, that's not what I signed up for. I would tend to push back a little bit and say, well, it kind of is, because we know the rules of engagement. So for me as an individual, I think I've taken myself a little bit more seriously, and I've had a great opportunity to be around the Kevin Costners and the Cole Hausers and the people of that world that have been doing this for so long. And they were able to sit with me and impart on me certain knowledge and mistakes and things like that they had made, as they were ascending into their career. And that has been invaluable to me. I tell people all the time, I've gained like 20 years of just experience in 5 seasons by being able to be around people like them.
Yeah, it's like a master class, right, Denim? The fact that you're around these guys, but it's also like I hear you talking about, you're around these legends, and that there's no arguing that. But is there any pressure in that? Like, so like, you know what? Hey, look, to my left is Cole Hauser, to my right is Kevin Costner. There's it's like an all-star team. It's like an NBA all-star team. Like how do you and the fact that you hang with these and hold your own and go above and beyond, it's a testament to you. But I don't want to say pressure, because I feel like that's not a good term, but is there any type of like, listen, I got to be at this level. That's where I got to be. Is there any type of that going on?
No, great question. One of the great things about Taylor is, we did this cowboy campus, but we do them every year. But in season 1, we did the cowboy camp. And I think it was a great equalizer, because it's like, we're not doing a show like we're in the city. We're riding horses and we're doing this. And none of us were really good. Like, we all come from big cities. We're not riding horses every day. We're not pushing cattle and all these other things. So you to come in with an ego wouldn't really work too much, because it was like, we're all pretty bad at what we do. We're all kind of looking at each other like, you guys think we're going to be able to do this? Like, and so we were able to kind of bond over the fact of like how goofy and ridiculous we looked. So I think that was a great equalizer. And, Taylor is a mastermind that he is, not only with the pen, but he knows people, and he knows kind of like the right buttons to push and the right people and the mixes. And we're all very odd and strange in our own ways. We all have our own eccentricities, but it just works. And, as you stated in your question, we all do hang out together. We know each other's families, and, we spend time with one another. We play cards, we go to games together. So we really do enjoy, one another. And I think that as the show has gone on, we've just gotten closer. So now when we're doing those big scenes, whether it be with Kelly or with Cole and these giant things, it's literally just like a day with your friends. And that's even more of a blessing, because you're like, man, we're getting paid to do this. Like, I mean, what else could we ask for?
Yeah, great answer. Walker called the Yellowstone Ranch a prison. This is during season 2. Does Colby feel the same way, you think, as far as the branding and not being able to leave and being in the bunkhouse? I don't know. I feel like Colby likes where he is. I feel like he's okay with it. I mean, up until I'm talking like season 2, season 3-ish. Do you feel it's like an extension of a prison in any sense, or extension of like your freedom has been cut off?
No, I think, it's different for a Walker, because he was in prison, and
that's right.
He was kind of forced into this situation. So, prison, I don't know who's listening to this that's ever been in jail or prison, but I have not. But just saying that, everything's dictated to. You can't just say, hey, I want to go out and get a burger, right? It's like, no, you got to be in your cell at this time. And to a lesser degree, that's how he kind of views his time on Yellowstone. He wanted to sit around and play the guitar, but you got to go build a fence. You got to go do this. You can't do this. And so that's how he views it. For us, it's kind of what we know. There's not anything else out there that we want to do. We're true horsemen in that regard. And he's very talented at what he does, but that's not necessarily, he didn't voluntarily come to the Yellowstone Ranch. He was pulled out of prison on his first day, before the gates had even been pulled apart. He was already being forced in a car. Yeah. And so I don't think that Colby looks at it like that at all. We still get to go to bars, even though nothing good ever happens when we go to bars. But we still get to have that, and you're around your friends. What else could you ask for?
No, great answer. Over the course of your life, have you met people that you want to bring to the train station? Maybe while you were being a waiter at a restaurant? Is there any people that have gotten under your skin, Denim? Because I feel like you're super positive. I can't see that ever happening.
Yeah, I've definitely had moments, like lapses of moments, where you're just like, man. But, it's again, I'm very big on, part of the stuff that I talk about is you have to allow yourself to feel. And I think sometimes, especially as men, we we get into this place of wanting to be so stoic that we don't feel anything. And I think that we internalize all of that. And then the world views us as we're so stoic that they can just keep piling more and more things onto us and that we'll never break. And then all of a sudden you have this giant collapse and everyone's so shocked. Like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not being Superman anymore? So I always try to be, as the course of my life has gone on, to have these moments where, you know what, like, I'm not in a great space today. Like there are some days, and I'm very transparent about that. Some days I sit there and go like, look, guys, I'm not in a great space. You know, and it might just be something I just don't like. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I'm overthinking things. But, you know, there have been a handful of people over the course of my life that I wanted to take to the train station, but not necessarily have them not leave the train station.
No, I got you. I got you. Yeah.
But yes, those moments have definitely, you know, crossed the forefront of my mind once or twice.
Thank you for all this time. I have a few more questions for you, Denim. I really appreciate this. Thank you. So I have to ask, I've been thinking about this all day and how to phrase this for you. So I've been dying to ask you if you think John Dutton is a good man, because you know who I compare him to? He's not as bad, but he's similar. He's kind of like Tony Soprano, right? The audience knows what he's done. Like he's done some really things that would have put people away from multiple life sentences, right? But he has these moments. Like he had a quote the other day that I've been thinking about, and I can't stop it when I was rewatching, about, you know, you live your life, but then when you have your family, your life stops and you're living for them. You're living for their, you know, your child. So it's like such a profound, like I almost like started bawling. Like he's got these moments of like, he cares, but then you get on his bad side and my God. And maybe it's not as easy as good or bad. Maybe there's a gray area that, so Denim, what's your take on John Dutton?
I think John does what he feels is best for his family. I think that one of the themes even for season 5 is we make sacrifices for the ranch, and everybody is going to have to sacrifice. I think that's one of the things he said in the first episode.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, he doesn't want to be governor, but in his mind, that's what's best for the ranch. And if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. And so, and I do think, you know, one of the great things, like you're talking about, you know, you're a father, and I'm sure you understand that before you have the kids, it's kind of more about what I want to do and how I want to do it. And then it's with them, all of the decisions could get filtered through. How does this work out for them in the long run? What is the cost benefit in X, Y, and Z? And so I think that John is looking at that as well. And I think that he's looking at it from the way that his ancestors had, where they had to fight for this land and all the things that they have gone through in order to do the things that they're doing. And I think that he just does what's best for them. And I honestly believe that in his mind, if he dies trying to do what's best for him, he can live with himself. What, like, is he going to go to prison? What's going to happen? Like, so I think for him, he's just trying to set his family up in the best situation possible. And occasionally, oftentimes, the things that you think is right isn't right for the world, right? And that's kind of that weird gray area that we're always kind of navigating. And I think that that's kind of speaks to Taylor's writing, because it's very, very true, right? Like, how much do you give? Like, how do you structure your family and the people that are around you and care about both? What comes first? And, you know, for him, it's my family's always going to come first. And it's important that they not only know that, but they need to impart that as part of their DNA as well.
Yeah, that's a great answer. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, who do you think is more, and I think you've probably been asked this before, but I wanted to ask you this. Who do you think is more ruthless, Rip or Beth?
Well, I think I would say Beth, only because Beth is more of the slow burn. You know, Rip is pretty, you know, it's a light switch.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
You know, Beth is very, you know, she's the one that wants to, you know, she wants you to watch your bank account go to zero, right? And day by day, she wants you to do everything that you can to be able to, she wants to do that slow burn. She loves that. Rip is instantaneous. So if you're looking at more ruthless, I would absolutely say Beth.
Yeah, and we look at Costner. He's got to be the new Eastwood. You know, with his work in Open Range, Let Him Go. I mean, he's just. We talked about how iconic he is. Can you remember something specific you've either learned from him or Taylor? Like I said, it's in masterclass, so you've probably learned millions of things. But is there a thing that you could talk about that I learned from Kevin, or that I learned from Taylor, or from any of the wonderful actors on the show? Is there anything that sticks out right now?
Yeah, you know, Taylor. You know, the great thing for, you know, this show, and my experience on the show thus far, is, you know, I think it's been me having the opportunity to watch Taylor juggle so many things and under so much pressure. I don't think people appreciate how much pressure Taylor is to live up to the expectations and to kind of deliver, and the expectation that each episode has to be better than the next and each season should be better than the next. And what we're doing right now is like unheard of. Usually when you get to a season 5, you're starting to go in the opposite direction. Like that plane's getting ready to land.
Yeah.
And this is like the opposite of metrics where you're just going up, right? And so I think that is just brilliant. You know, we're around whenever I have the opportunity to be around Taylor. He's so present and so in it, and it's like, and he's not on his phone, he's not on all these other things. And it's like, how can you be so present and be so here and part and bias when you have 7 different shows that are going on, 15 different people that are all calling for who knows what and for what. So that is on the business side. I think that is just brilliant. And then for him to go back and write was great. And then for Kevin, I think one of the great things about it, he's still very technical. I think one of the things that's so refreshing is he loves what he does still. And for somebody that's been doing it for 40 plus years, has won an Oscar, has done all these other things, to still show up on set and care so much about the process, to care so much about how the character and what he's doing in relation to others. And I just think it's mind blowing. It's very, very refreshing, because to me, what it tells me is if Kevin can do it after 45 years, you don't have any excuses to not be able to make sure that when you go there, that you show up with the same love and passion that he's able to do after expanding this career in the way that he has.
No, great answer. My last question is, I heard you in another interview say, at times you and the other cast, you guys will get together by a bonfire, share stories, look at the stuff. You know, I got, for a show that I already love, I started to get the feels all over again, because it became that much more real that you guys really have this wonderful rapport. We know about the memories on camera. We see what happens. Are the memories off camera, Denim, just as important to you?
I think it's more important. I think we have so many stories, being off set from season 1 all the way up until now. And I think that's what makes the show so special for us, because it's like watching our friends. And I'm so happy, and I'm so blessed to be able to see, them getting the accolades and the attention and the opportunities that they're getting, because this has been such an amazing ride. But, we have so many, like, we have the bonfires, and we have, the going to, fight nights and all of these other things. And then things that the public never sees, which is just hanging out in a room and just talking for hours. And like we said, sharing stories and talking about things that are frustrating and how you balance work-life relationships and all these other things. And it's just, these are things that are invaluable. And I do think that it's very unique, because the best way that I can describe this show and the uniqueness of what it is that because we don't shoot in a major city like a New York, Chicago, LA, when you're done with filming, it's not like you have like all of these kind of distractions to go to, right? The dinner, your friends, and maybe home, if that's where you live in those bigger cities. For us, because of where we shoot in Montana, our home is each other. So when we're off of set, if we want to be around people, we're usually around each other. And so that was something I think has really bonded us together, because we're like, well, there's nothing else for us to do. Let's all hang out. And then when we started hanging out, we're like, man, we all kind of have similar interests. Like I said, we're all eccentric in our own ways, but we all really enjoy like sports, and we're competitive and working out together. And just, so I think that that's something that's very unique. And I think that that's what makes the show really, really special.
Is Montana as majestic as it looks on screen?
Oh, absolutely. It's probably more so, just because, I mean, they call it Big Sky Country for a reason, but it's not until you get there that you feel so insignificant, in the course of what the world is. And when you get to look out and you see these giant pastures, and, and the camera is only capturing like this much of it, it's such a breath of fresh air, especially for somebody like myself that grew up in Los Angeles, very, very congested, so many people, to finally be in a space where there's, less than probably 1/10 of the population that it is in LA, which is just a beautiful thing, and be able to breathe in this fresh air. You kind of feel like you get some years back on your life. And I always tell myself, now that I'm back in Montana, I'm going to be still and patient. And then the moment I get back to LA and jump on the 405, I'm frustrated, getting gray hairs and all these other things. But, it is what it is.
Denim, what did you want to throw out there as far as maybe your social media, a future project, anything you wanted to get out there?
No, this is great. You already have, at Denim Richards is usually where I do most of my stuff. And obviously my Twitter is at Denim Richards. To me, my biggest thing is really just trying to impart positivity, self-accountability. And, if we can do that, and that's what I try to use my platform for, like I said, to try to edify and educate, and I'm really thankful for you. You got like amazing questions. So this interview was it was just beautiful to me. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to do the research that you've done. But yeah, no, this has been great. And, hopefully I'll be able to engage with you again.
Yeah, let's do it. Denim, I think the world of you. You're super talented. And I'm excited for your future, not just Yellowstone, but I'm excited about future projects that you direct potentially. That's what I'm really looking for. And I thank you for this time, and I wish you all the best.
No problem. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Denim, take care. Yep.
Thank you for listening to Derek Thomas and Monday Morning Critic Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can also connect with Monday Morning Critic on Instagram and Facebook, MDM Critic on Twitter, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found. All episodes available, www.mmcpodcast.com.